interesting topic for many people in the room, and it is carbohydrate addiction. And what's interesting about that is what we don't realize is, I know, I'm not going to, please don't raise your hand, but I know there's a large number of people in this room with adult onset diabetes. Part of that can be controlled by diet and exercise. Many people get adult onset diabetes who were carbohydrate addicts because their body builds up a resistance to the insulin. It doesn't go to energy, it goes to fat, and it ends up getting in your blood, and that's when you start having the adult onset. We're going to talk about carbohydrate addiction, and what's interesting is there's cross addictions to the carbohydrate acolytes, the sugar substitutes, the alcoholic beverages, monosodium glutamate. For over a year, I was on a pre-packaged food program. I won't name names because of the blog, but I think you can guess which one it was. I lost 100 pounds, did great, but that food was so full of aspartame, MSG, and I was eating packaged breakfast, packaged lunch, packaged dinner. At the end of that year, I had worked myself into an allergy against the additives. My body just could not take any more of it. And I think too, a lot of it was because I was a carbohydrate addict my whole life. And 75% of people who are overweight, and many regular people, are carbohydrate addicts. And it's like too much insulin results in too strong an impulse to eat too often, and a body that too readily stores the food in the form of fat. We have a little quiz here, and I'm going to go right to it. After a full breakfast, you get hungry before it's time for lunch. Eleanor mentioned eating smaller 100, and I'm going to ask everyone not to chat during the presentation. Eleanor talked about having 100-calorie snacks, and this presentation tonight talks about it. I never proposed that, but I recently had a checkup because there's nothing wrong with me, and I can't lose any more weight. During Lent, I fasted 2 days a week, 2 complete days. I rode my bike over 400 miles, and I lost no weight during Lent. The doctor says that I'm not eating enough, and I think that's true. I always felt that in order to lose weight, you had to not eat. That comes from the obese mind. To be fat, you eat a lot, you eat your chips, and you eat your ice cream, your carbs. To lose weight, you have to suffer, and you have to starve. It worked great when I lost my first 130 some odd pounds, and then it didn't work anymore. So now guess what? I have to eat more. I'm going to go a few steps backwards before I go forwards. I want you people who are at plateaus to really listen to this. He told me I'm going to have to gain some weight before I can start to lose weight again. I have to have fiber-filled foods. And I'll tell you something, and I don't mind saying it on the blog. It's been 2 weeks. I've never been more regular in my life. I was going like 4 or 5 days, nothing, because I wasn't eating enough. I wasn't eating the right foods. I mean, I'm taking cauliflower now. What am I saying when I'm eating it, Bob? I'm making the noises. I'm going, oh, this is so good, this is so good. Fiber, bran buds on anything. Yogurt, bran buds. Oatmeal, bran buds. This talks about after a full breakfast, you get hungry before it's time for lunch, then you got to have some grapes, then you got to have some yogurt. Do you have difficult time stopping once you start to eat starches, snack foods, junk foods, or sweets? Do you feel unsatisfied even though you just finished a meal? Does the sight, smell, or the thought of food sometimes make you want to eat? Do you eat even when you're not hungry? Are you unable to keep from snacking at night? People talked about that recently. After a large meal, do you feel sluggish, almost drugged? Do you get unexplainably tired and or hungry in the afternoon? Have you at times continued eating even though you felt uncomfortably full? Have you been on diet after diet only to lose weight, then regain it again? I'm not even going to these low scores. I'm going right to the 8 to 10 because you have scored in the severe carbohydrate addiction range. You may be struggling to control your eating without realizing that your body has been fighting you, literally driving you to eat and then storing the excess food energy as fat. And I have to say that was what it was with me. My body was literally fighting me, but the grace of God was helping me to control my carbs. But then it got to the point where I wasn't losing weight anymore, and I did this research, went to the doctor. Very interesting, and I want everyone to stay with me because we can change this. There's work involved, but we can break this cycle. We can return the balance to our body's insulin levels, but it's only going to work as long as it's followed. Okay, how it all works. All right, this is a whole technical thing about you eat and the insulin and the doorway. It's fascinating about the serotonin. For those of you who want to have a nice cup of decaf coffee or whatever and read it, it's very, very good. This is interesting too. It talked about the adrenaline secretion when there's too much blood sugar. I didn't have adult onset diabetes, but I'm telling you, I was a candidate because it even brings, when you're having this adrenaline thing about eating, you can get a rapid heartbeat, a feeling of anxiety or uneasiness, panic attacks. I suffered from years because my body was so out of sync. I was insulin resistant. I didn't weigh 200, I weighed 370. My body was in full battle with itself. You really need to understand that we who have a problem with carbohydrates or sugar are self-medicating ourselves, giving ourselves the foods that will help bring our blood sugars back up to normal, but it's only temporary. And then within a very short time, the cycle begins again, leaving us craving and needing the carbohydrates once again. It is your quintessential vicious cycle. And I'm going to stop right there, Bob.